Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is a third of three webinars today, conversations, dialogue with some of our favorite people. The grand finale, I might say. Don't mean to put pressure on what's to come, but I am excited about what's to come. We have covered a perspective from a young adult who discussed her approach to mental well-being and the realities, sort of the real talk, real life of navigating not just the current times, but times in general. So she gave us, Haley Dalton, some wonderful insight to her personal sort of navigation of these times. At noon, we had the Cameron K. Gallagher Foundation staff on board talking about the great pivot of 2020 and how we adjusted our mental wellness education deliveries to the virtual environment, a scalability priority that was actually in place that the pandemic pressed an accelerator toward, and we were able to make some pivots and still in this awesome space of program innovation for that. That was a great discussion. And now we round out Giving Tuesday with a discussion with two dear family members, friends, and supporters of the Cameron K. Gallagher Foundation. We have David Gallagher, who's the CEO of Dominion Payroll, and also Cameron's dad. We have Sandy Wiggins, who is the founder and chairman of ACG Worldwide, a financial services organization. And we're here today to bring on board this day-long discussion of generosity and mental well-being, sort of the corporate, business, and community sector, kind of add in that perspective. We have framed the set of three conversations today around this national movement of Giving Tuesday, which is today. And that is a national movement begun in 2012 when a group of nonprofits collaborated to just send out a singular message that celebrated the transformational properties of generosity, both from individuals, organizations, and communities. Really a way to celebrate our way to change the world by tapping in to a through line that really on some level exists in all of us. So on Giving Tuesday, we decided to celebrate that and to also continue the good work of the Cameron K. Gallagher Foundation by celebrating mental well-being as we do so. And our dialogue today will be about implanting the generosity thoughts into a corporate environment, how that translates. We'll talk a little bit about personal practices and how we live our lives at work and at home, and how that kind of comes into play, and how we lead ourselves and organizations with a generous spirit and a servant's heart, and just bring together all of us to take a moment for gratitude. Giving Tuesday is often a time when people ask for resources and money. And, you know, we're not shy for such, but we thought a different spin this year. We want to celebrate the through line we all need to find today, and that is the generous spirit. And so we're going to begin today, third of three, the grand finale, with sort of an open-ended question, but I love this question and I adore both of these gentlemen, and I'm eager for what their responses will be. And that general question this evening is, what do you think about the idea of generosity? You each represent a highly skilled organization, and a highly skilled industry requires a certain amount of focus that's very singular. I'm wondering, in the space of all the high performance and productivity that's required and expected, that where could a concept like generosity land in an organization so laser focused on a certain type of skill? I'll ask David to start for us tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, hi, Claire.
Hi.
It's great to see you. And
Thank
it's
you.
always an honor to share time with one of my best friends in life, not only Claire, but Sandy Wiggins. So I'm really excited about this conversation. And the question that you've asked is one that, I've personally tried to circle my life around. And, if I'm really honest, it might be a concept that I came to a little bit later in life, maybe had some awareness of the concept earlier in life, but probably didn't study the concept of generosity in corporate citizenry together for a very long time. Maybe the three of us, if we go back to our days in business school or in corporate culture, a lot of the concepts that you see today in the way organizations handle terms like generosity are much different than they were 25, 30 years ago when we were really entering the workforce and trying to become career people and build organizations. But, I think I really do believe there was a massive pivot right around 2001, and some of this had a lot to do with September 11th and maybe some level of tragedy, as so many great things tend to be a result of. But I really believe that the word corporate organization really shifted to a place that stepped back and began to look at the way they do things, and they realized that maybe the corporate organizations were handling generosity a little off basis with maybe the way employees, staff, executives handle things. And I believe it has come full circle to where inside organizations, terms like generosity are now part of not even your core values, they are part of your mission statement. You exist to be generous. You have a product and a service to deliver, but if you're not part of a generous organization, and I think that means something more, then you probably have, you lack relevance in today's marketplace. And, I look back at the way we've built Dominion Payroll Services and the way we've handled our leadership. I truly believe that, the several hundred employees that work for Dominion Payroll, I believe that they come to be part of Dominion Payroll not because they care about time and attendance or payroll or HR or 401k or any of the products or services that we offer. I really do believe that they come to work for us because they want to be part of something that matters and that they want to be part of an organization that is having an impact on something that benefits people, that is generous, to use the term. Sandy and I share industries in that the products and the services that we deliver are technical. They require accuracy and mathematical precision. They require audit. They require, actually, they don't really require any generosity to perform the function. But the more I've studied leadership and the more I've studied corporate organizations, the less I believe really people want to be part of the technical aspect. They believe that if they are part of an organization that is generous and is good and is having an impact, that then they see great satisfaction in the technical aspects of it. And so I think there's been a full swing movement here in the way we handle generosity and corporate giving and relationships with our community, that now our employees and our partners are demanding that we be great beyond what we deliver to our clients and services.
Yeah, thank you, David. That's well said and well placed from the history of what I know of Dominion Payroll. It seems the evolution is apparent, and your presence in the community in terms of community engagement and in community giving is quite obvious. So, we thank you for your support and look forward to hearing from Sandy and his perspective on this concept of generosity and how he experiences his work and his organization and how he might lead with that notion overtly or perhaps just as an expectation of character.
Yeah, I appreciate being here today, and certainly CKG is an important part of me personally, my family, and our company, and so we're proud to be a part of the organization. I agree 100% with what Dave is saying about, people wanting to be a part of something, and we do an awful lot of technical work, but it's getting together, helping people is what we all get up every day to do, and we do it in different ways. I also look at, reflected on your question a little bit, and think about when I was younger and wasn't really sure what a career was going to look like and where I might even fit into all that. And I remember, a handful of key people being generous with their time and their opportunities and their knowledge and their experiences, and helping me just really see as a young adult that there were so many possibilities. And that continued to shape me in my career and ultimately what I do every day in my life's work. One of my biggest goals, and I hope I accomplish it, at least every other day, and it'd be great if I did it every day, is to help create an environment where individuals can find that opportunity to be generous with each other, whether it be their coworkers, their clients, their customers, their community. It's a little bit like air, we all breathe it. And if we all share this concept of generosity, and if we focus on it almost like a hobby, we enjoy it, we practice it, and we get an awful lot out of it.
Yeah, that's great, Sandy. Thank you for that perspective. And I love what you said about opportunity and generosity of learning and generosity of experience that people offer into your journey, and that you noted that, and that you were able to recognize that as, I'm going to use a term, a generosity perhaps of spirit. And, with the two of you being in organizations that require so much precision and specificity and math cognition and all those things, the term generosity of spirit may be a little abstract or a little kind of floaty for someone in the mathematical precision world. But I believe that the folks who organized Giving Tuesday were using generosity of spirit, Sandy, to really describe almost what you have experienced in your career's journey. But I think it could be something more. And I wonder what David might say about the idea of developing a skill toward a generous spirit. What do you think about tapping into a giving sensation or a giving through line? And are there pathways to it that could be precision based or skill based? What do you think about that?
Claire, we've I know we have some questions here. I really think this is one of the great questions out there. And if I'm boiling down to some of the concepts I want to address, and I think I have studied this for 20 years, and some of this is, can generosity be taught? Can an organization develop it? Can it be led? What about maybe people that don't have natural inclination to that? Can we bring them along on a journey and find value, or can they find value in this concept? And Claire, I'll tell you, I think you and I have a couple great stories where maybe that don't have a lot to do with generosity. We've trained for some pretty tough races together. And in particular, I remember the first one that you were getting ready to enter, and you were rightfully so really anxious and nervous about that, maybe to the point that you didn't want to do it, right? I've been there myself. I've looked at it and said, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could complete that Ironman or that marathon? You dabble your toes into the concept a little bit. You start feeling differently, and maybe one side of your head says, it's just not worth it. I just don't think that the pain is going to be there. But maybe deep down inside, if I could just get to that finish line, I know that it would all be worth it. I know that going forward with this will be a life's achievement. And to me, the concept of generosity of spirit has a lot in common with that. Some people are just born generous. Some organizations have natural leadership styles towards that stuff. But I think by and large, people need to be led to a generosity of spirit. I really do. I think they want to be generous. They don't know how to deliver that without fear, for whatever the fear concepts might be. But, I'm looking over, you guys can't see this right now. Dominion Payroll Services hoisted, it looks like about a 10-foot Christmas tree. Somehow we got it up onto the third floor of 3200 Rockbridge. And we've got, I don't know, about 10 employees decorating it right now with lights. And I know 2 of those participants are Jewish, and they're doing a food drive. Okay. And I'm looking at what I believe is a leadership-based generosity of spirit. And that once people are shown that generosity of spirit becomes a life value, becomes a life satisfaction, becomes a habit, becomes a mechanism to overcome adversity, sadness, mental health challenges, that they then find freedom to really self-create independence and happiness. I think about that with our own employees, that the will to be generous can often be something like, I'm not sure if I should move forward with that. Is that too much? I even think about the terms like in our own business, mental health relationships. When we first really began the journey with endeavoring into mental health, I do believe that Dominion Payroll and our staff wanted to be involved in mental health, maybe not because mental health, but because they cared about Cameron and they cared about me. So let's just back up on that concept. They didn't necessarily see mental health as the problem. They saw a person inside of their organization that was suffering and believed that there was something we could do. Hence, we got them engaged, maybe not naturally so. But once they began to get engaged in mental health and they saw the results of dealing with kids and being part of our Speak Up 5K programs and being part of the Speak Up light ups that we do and the people like you, they've become hopelessly addicted to it. They really have. What you see, they just want to show up. They want to be part of that because they've realized how self-fulfilling it is to truly explore that generosity of spirit. And so I don't know if I really got a chance to specifically answer your question, but I think when I come down to it and I really, really think about it organizationally and behaviorally, I believe it's in there for people, but it's not naturally something that they can just unlock. That they have to see, like Sandy said, their leaders have got to show them that this is how we act, this is how we behave. And maybe we haven't seen that in the last several years, right? In some of our other leaders. And hopefully the pendulum is going to swing back to a leadership base that truly has that.
David, I love what you said because I'm eager to also hear Sandy comment further, because you talked about fear being perhaps an inhibitor toward tapping into some generosity. And Sandy, in your work, scarcity fear could probably be a factor in how your clients might be deciding to invest or at least communicating to you their desires. And that scarcity fear is not necessarily the antithesis to generosity. It's just who you might be or your history. But if you don't have a leader who is of generous spirit or that leads from a place of purpose, it might be difficult to navigate a scarcity fear in your business. And I wondered really in that generosity of spirit, Sandy, how you cultivate your team to maybe behave in a generous, cohesive way in an industry where scarcity fear could be a big deal. I wondered if you could comment on that generous spirit.
Yeah, that's a great question. And what immediately comes to mind is money does create an awful lot of stress. And I know that's not our topic today, but it touches on your question. And our mission is to create clarity and purpose for our clients in their wealth and help alleviate that stress and that anxiety and the fear that you're speaking of. And when I think about that, I think of really two ways of attempting to address that. One is to help quantify it, to help identify, the knowns that are numbers in the finance and the drier part of things. But it's also regarding the individual and their particular concerns, their goals, their family values. And we as an organization work very hard to understand that. And it's really no different than, place yourself in any organization. It's about your team, the people around you. How can you take care of each other, help each other become the best that they can be? And then ultimately that's that energy that you spoke of that kind of, morphs and seeps out into the immediate community around you. So, I'm not sure that's the best answer, but hearing what you were saying, that's what came to mind.
Well, Sandy, I think you did answer the question. And one thing that sticks with me is your inspiration to motivate your team to become their best selves within the function of kind of helping reduce financial anxiety for your clients. And that to me is absolutely a generous leader. And y'all might know about a study that Google did a number of years ago around the most effective teams out there. And it was learned that the most effective teams had leaders with these qualities. One was exhibited compassion. One was a mindfulness-based practice that was overt in the community or in the culture of the organization. And one that really stuck with me, there are actually 4, and I'm only recalling 3, is psychological safety. So Sandy, it sounds like that you've created a team that can express themselves and work toward kind of that space to become their best self or be their best self. And if we're doing anything at the Cameron K. Gallagher Foundation, we're looking to cultivate a sense of psychological safety for children, teens, their influencers, in a way that they can suffer when it's necessary and to draw support when they need it, and to have conversations in the open because they're worth it. And so all of that psychological safety gets wrapped up in business and corporate culture and kind of in how you all lead. And speaking of leading, I'm going to lead us in a direction next about what it takes to nourish and cultivate and curate your own sense of showing up every day in the space. It's not easy, and to be that leader. And at the CKG Foundation, most people know we teach the idea of positive coping strategy and practices and skills and strategies we can go to continue a healthy mental well-being through line. And I know we'd be nothing if we didn't walk our talk as individuals. And I'm sure you feel the same way. And I wondered if you'd be willing to share, it's a little personal now, what your personal practices are to help bring a sense of generosity to even direct one-on-one communications that you have at work, or maybe that sense of showing up as your best self. What are your personal practices that bring forth the best mental well-being so that you can be that, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, for sure. And I think about, I'm reflecting on something you and David were speaking about earlier, and the concept of generosity around fear and anxiety, or being willing to stretch. And I'm reminded of Cameron's words, "Let's finish this." And in every morning we've got to get up and we've got to attack the day, or approach the day. What I do is, I get up earlier than I've ever gotten up. And it's really just to take a slower pace to the start of my day. I then spend some time meditating. There are a couple of great apps, Headspace or Calm, or 2 easy ways to dip your foot kind of into the meditation mindfulness arena. That gets me in the right frame of mind, to really go to work, be present, be mindful of what's going on around me. I also have another app on my phone that randomly rings a bell, a meditation bell throughout the day. And, I take 3 deep breaths to pause, look around, see the people I'm interfacing with, focus on the task at hand. And it really helps me, stay focused, be present. The interesting thing is that now people that are around me when my bell goes off, they're doing the same thing. So, little things help each other out. And so that's what I do each day. And some days it's more of a challenge, but for the most part, if I can just remain present, be calm, take a few deep breaths, life's a lot easier.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. That's awesome. Love to hear those things. What about you, David?
Well, it's so interesting to me. I see Sandy Wiggins as a near Buddhist level focus. And so I'm scribbling notes as he writes down, because truthfully, Sandy's ability to concentrate on people individually is something that I truly aspire to be more like. And I love that when you described the Google success factors, one was psychological safety. And, I'm no doubt, I'm hoping that CEOs and founders are included in psychological safety. I'm on a constant journey for that. And I want to begin the answer here and say that I am naturally horrible at mental care. I was not born with these skills. In fact, if anything, I'm probably the worst athlete that has ever endeavored into this. I have terrible ADD. I have a wide level of extroversion. And so for me, the concept of inward focused peace is a commitment that I mean, this is daily training and intense work I have to do to be even a fraction of what other people do. But I'll share with you what I do. Every morning I wake up, and like Sandy said, I spend 20 to 30 minutes in meditation. And personally, what I'm trying to do is just clear my head and concentrate on not thinking much. I really want to see if I can get myself into a mindful place where I'm present, and the beginning thoughts aren't, oh, I have to do this today, or I don't want to deal with this, or whatever the usual routine might begin. And Claire, you may have seen, I have a book that I literally print once a month, and it's got 30 some pages in it for each day. And on the cover of that book are my daily meditations. And I keep this book with me all day long. I use it as a reminder. I have remembrances that I go through. My remembrances on a daily basis are: your ego is the source of your emotion. There is little or no reward in negative statements. Gratitude is the answer always. Physical health is a daily commitment. And here's one: alcohol fogs your brain. People kind of get giggly when I talk about that, but it's a detractor for me. And then take time to review what you should be doing. And then I focus on the following words repetitively throughout the day. And these are a list of words that, again, I need to constantly be in touch with. Patience, presence, kindness, focus, gratitude, and responsiveness. And so when I'm in my car, driving to and from places or at work, I'm typically listening to spa music, and I'm thinking about those words. And for me, a lot of people have it a lot easier. If I wasn't constantly organized according to that process, I think I'm a much more distracted, less patient, much more responsive person as it relates to my emotions and my mental health care.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting.
Claire,
David.
let me, if you don't mind, jumping in a little bit and sounding off on what you're saying, David. I'm 100% with you. I share that lack of focus gene, and in many ways it makes us the successful people that we are, but it's also a hindrance.
Yeah.
And nobody as a kid taught me anything about this. I mean, it was kind of, I don't even think anybody ever mentioned it. And so as I've gotten older and through the good works of organizations like CKG, this concept of being mindful, being present, it's okay to, have anxiety. Let's not become anxious, understanding the difference between an emotion and becoming the emotion. Those things are so important. And it is a learned exercise. You have to practice at it. But once you kind of get a taste of it, your day, at least my day, goes much smoother and more enjoyable. And I think I'm probably more resourceful, there's a better performance in my day. And I think I'm probably nicer to be around.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, 100%, Sandy. I think it's interesting, David, and I might buck you on this one. You said that you're, going inside is tough for you and that you're the worst at it. But what viewers might not know is that the book you showed us is a custom David created kind of personal pathway journey toward these things. So that takes a bit of inner work. For you, it manifests itself in an actual tactile thing that helps you tap into it, but it is the result of some inner work. And it would be good to note that. You guys have each touched on the idea that, the idea of generosity and being in practice for mental well-being has its positive effects on happiness and its positive effects on being able to navigate the anxiety that occurs. I think that we tend to stigmatize suffering and anxiety as if it doesn't belong and that we should get rid of it. And Sandy said something that made me remember that anxiety is, like you said, some of our things like ADD or lack of focus can be our worst liability, but our best resource too. Anxiety serves a similar role. It is a messenger. Anxiety belongs with us right now. We should be curious about it, but we should not, what you resist persists. We should not ask it to go away. We should learn to navigate, accept, and understand it's okay to be anxious, to know that anxiety is here, but you are not the anxiety itself. And I know that was an aha moment for Cameron when she was able to separate from her diagnosis that she was Cameron and she was not actually her diagnosis. I've heard David and Grace tell a beautiful story about moments when that happened for her. And so you all's perspective in an environment of leadership, but what is great is you brought us into your personal life, and aren't we all just people? Aren't we all just, for me, there's not a lot of separation between home and work. And I wonder if that's not a good way to be. And that makes me happy that I'm able to be fully me at whatever moment I'm in the present moment. I'd like to take us into an interesting direction. And for our listeners and viewers out there, I did let our guests know I was going to ask this question, so they may already have a response, but I love the question. We do promote and encourage self-care and compassion at the CKG Foundation. We promote these skills, we promote these concepts. We do a very educative view of our programs and kind of mental well-being tactics. But there's a polish on that about self-compassion. You might be building skills, but what about the days they don't come easy? We need to have this idea of compassion toward ourselves, and also an idea of gratitude that you're in the game. And so the question is, I'd like you to take a mindful breath, take a mindful minute or a second or two, and draw to mind your 10-year-old self. And maybe just articulate for us what you might be grateful for, proud of, or just acknowledge was important during that time when you were 10. And I chose that age very much intentionally. It's right before those teen years, before we might be in the space of adolescent development and brain development that sends us a bit off kilter anyway, because whatever was there before you got to that normal developmental place, that person is still there. And you carried that person through that. And that person was profound to you in some way. So I'm wondering, to the extent you're willing, this is my third webinar for the day. I've thought of 2 different things already about my 10-year-old self, and I got to think of a third. So I'm going to let David or Sandy go first. I'm not exempting myself from this weird question, but if you can kind of establish a friendship with yourself, that's what self-compassion is. What would you be friendly toward? What would you give friendly engagement to about your 10-year-old self?
Sandy, why don't you go first?
You did give me the benefit of the question, and I've reflected on it a lot. And one thing that I thank 10-year-old Sandy for is just so much excitement about everything. 10-year-old Sandy just is curious. And, he's also very empathetic and caring, and he wants to have a good time, and he wants everybody around him to feel great. And to me, that is still very much a part of who I am. What I learned, and I think this is a bit of why we're talking today, is that as I got older, life got real. The 10-year-old is life's perfect. There's really not much that we have to worry or fret over. And as I got older, more responsibility, things that develop in life, I realized that there was a lot more out of my control. And that was very frustrating to the 10-year-old Sandy. And so now the 55-year-old Sandy is sharing with the 10-year-old Sandy, hey, that enthusiasm is awesome. But it's not everything, and if things don't work out the way we hope, the way we plan, it's not the end of the world. We've got to be flexible. This year is a great example of what curveballs we might get. And I want to maintain that excitement, but I also need to be flexible and be open to letting things unfold, and enjoying it for whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's great, Sandy.
Thank you.
It's so interesting. This is why I like him so much. I mean, I come at it from a little bit of a different point of view in that I was one heck of a 10-year-old. I mean, I think if you asked Jerry Gallagher, she would say she would have sold me on the corner at 9 to not go through my 10-year-old self. And, when I reflect like Sandy did here, I think there's a lot of appreciation there. I was a gritty kid. I was willing. I bought my own bike when I was 10 years old by raising money around the neighborhood. I was willing. I believe I was a nice kid, but I was a troublemaker and in a positive kind of mischievous way. Not a fighter or an argumentative 10-year-old, but I never sat around. And I mean, every morning I was out the door trying to get something done, whether it was play a sport or do a project or try and raise some money to go skiing or to ride a bike or to do something adventurous. And from a very, very early age, I had a very strong passion. I would thank David Gallagher for that passion. I really would.
Wow. Yeah.
I think, like Sandy said, the self-correction of that was appropriate kind of maybe later in life, and the handling of that and the channeling of it when it was time was a very important turn in my life. And had it not, I think I could end up in a different way, not good or bad, but I don't think I would be here where I am right now. And so I'm proud of David Gallagher. I don't even know if I've thought about it to this extent until you asked us this question, Claire. Because I think a lot of us who were raised in, maybe Catholic schools or big families, the wild 10-year-old was, pointed downward a lot, as opposed to saying, hey, that's a skill that can go somewhere someday, right? We're gonna put it in the right direction at some point, but it's good.
Yeah. I love that, David. I think when I was 10, I've known you a long time, but I don't think I knew you when I was 10. But I might say to myself that I appreciate the soft heart I had. I grew up in a big family with a lot of chaos. The chaos was sometimes good and sometimes not so good, but my soft heart and sort of accepting quieter ways back then, those of you that know me, I love what David said. He said extroversion. I don't know that I've heard that term quite like that. I have an extreme case of it too, and you'd never know. My 10-year-old self would never know that. And so I might thank her for being a little softer and listening and taking things in, because I can use that today as I become super reactive. I am pretty reactive, in a good way. My passions get ahead of me a lot of times, and then just letting that reality come in a way that makes sense for the situation, much like the Iron Man, and it happened, and I'm grateful. And the generous spirit of the team and Cameron's soul and spirit really got me there. So the interwoven experience of that, I can thank that quieter Claire that took her time toward the finish line. I really took my time, not on purpose. So I really think that those spaces in ourselves, we should connect to every now and then. And wrapping up really for the teens out there and the teen influencers, that idea is just being a friend to yourself. I know it might sound a little goofy for some personality types, but really think about it. How might you treat a friend versus how you might self-talk in certain situations, and maybe fix that language a little bit so that you're more generous and self-compassion for you. So as we kind of wrap up today and just really put a frame around this amazing time together, I just want to remind everyone that today is about celebrating that generous spirit. Even if you're not feeling it today, in your life, there are moments you can be generous with conversations and support. A hand out, a hand toward, a hand up, a hand down, whatever you can do to participate in someone else's mental well-being is so generous. And we thank you for that. We thank David and Sandy for their time and their generosity of everything, time, energy, spirit. and resources to us. It's something we could not live without, and we thank you for that. And I wonder if any parting words from the two of you about the CKG Foundation Giving Tuesday, or your idea about your next generous act.
I'll end with this. You know, the term "everything you do matters" is what we're concepting on. And this is the back of my little notebook that you and I talked about at the beginning, and it's an eye chart that I built at Tang and Biscuit. And it says every single thing that you do matters, and to me, it ties in very clearly to what we're doing today, and that, you know, every action, every breath, every step, everything you do has a vibe. It has an energy, and unconsciously, I think a lot of that vibe can maybe not be positive sometimes. And I think we need to consciously check ourselves and ask whether we're being generous in spirit. And so everything matters, Claire. Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, thank you for that. Sandy?
And, you know, picking up on what you're saying, David, I agree 100%. And you and I both are very competitive, and we want to just crush everything that we do and do it the best ever. And I like what you're saying there, in that, you know, sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes I'm not as focused as I need to be. And Claire, what you're saying is that that's okay. You know, we all make mistakes, and we shouldn't beat ourselves up for what didn't work out as much as we would like, or, you know, people are dealing with anxiety and depression and frustration in lots of different ways, and that's okay. What happened in the past is one thing. Let's just, you know, focus on being the best that we can be moving forward, whatever that looks like. And, you know, I just want to thank you very much for all of your efforts. You've worked hard for weeks to prepare for this. Today's been a great success. And, you know, David, it's always a great time to spend with you. Yeah. And see the great things that you and your family have done and continue to do. So thanks for the opportunity to participate today.
Yes. So thanks everyone who tuned in, and we appreciate your attention to your own mental health and to our mission. So we'll see you around another time, another topic, another dialogue, but always about mental well-being and supporting each other. So have a generous rest of your day.
Thank
See
you.
Soon. Yeah, bye.